Okay, so in last lecture we discussed about demand function and we discussed about the relation between the quantity demanded and price of the commodity. Also we discussed about law of demand and exceptions of law of demand. But as we know that demand function, it has different parameters apart from the price of the commodity. Like suppose we have, what was the demand function? QD is a function of price of X, income, price of complementary commodities, price of substitute commodities, taste and preferences. So we discussed about this relation, quantity demanded and price of the commodity, which gives us the law of demand, which follows the law of demand and which gives us the demand curve. So now we will discuss about the next one, that is quantity demanded and income of the consumer. Now see that quantity demanded, how these are related. Quantity demanded and income of the consumer, how these are related. So we can have actually two types of commodities over there. One is normal goods and another one is inferior commodities. Now what do we understand by inferior commodities? Inferior commodities are those where, for which if my income increases, I will purchase less. We'll come to that. So before that, what we understand by normal good, that we want to know. So normal good are generally the daily goods which we consider on a regular basis, which we require on a regular basis. So what we are considering here, we will judge the relation for two. One is for normal goods and another is for inferior goods. Okay. So these inferior goods and normal goods will decide what will be the relation, the nature of the goods. Okay. So for normal good, as I said, that this is daily goods which is not luxury. That is, I need not to spend more. Okay. So whatever we are considering here, we can consider here actually both the normal goods as well as the luxury goods. For luxury goods, which are my luxury goods? Suppose and luxury goods. Which are my luxury goods for which I have to spend more? So now see, whatever will be my normal good, whatever will be my luxury good, whatever will be my inferior good, that depends on my income bracket. There is no tag. Okay, there is no particular labeling of the goods that these goods are normal, these are luxury, these are inferior. No, it varies from person to person because the income varies from person to person. So for normal and luxury goods, whenever we are considering, normal and luxury good, whenever we are considering, this is my income, this one is my quantity demanded. Now suppose this is my initial income quantity bundle. M0 is my income level and at M0 income level I am purchasing Q1 of a particular good. If my income increases from M0 to M1, what I will do? I will purchase more. M0 to M1 if increases, I will purchase more. Q1 to Q2. So this is a relation. This is not the demand curve because repeatedly I will like to make you alert about the fact that demand curve when I get is price and quantity of the same good. What is the name of the good here? X. So I am judging the price and quantity of the same good to get a demand curve. But this is not demand because I am not judging price and quantity. I am judging income and quantity demanded of a consumer. So that is what happens. Like For an example, I can say that suppose I prefer to use different type of wristwatches. I prefer. Okay. So if it is a normal good for me, not a very luxurious one, the commonly local made wristwatches I prefer. So if my income increases, what I will do? Now I have, suppose I'm earning now 10,000 and I have two wristwatches, right? But I prefer more. I want to purchase more. But I don't have money, that's why I'm not being able to purchase. See, if my income went up from 10,000 to 20,000 to 30,000, so what I can do? I can purchase more and more because I like that commodity. Okay. And for luxury goods also it happens. Suppose generally whenever I want to go to some places, I avail a 3-tier AC. A first AC or flight is luxury for me. Okay. So if my income increases, then probably I will be able to avail first AC or flight sometimes, not always. So that is luxury for me. Okay. Now come to inferior good. What do we understand by inferior good? What I said, that if income increases, income and quantity demanded that we are considering, what I said, if income increases, we'll purchase less. If income increases, we'll purchase less. So suppose this one is M1 and Q1. This is the initial bundle of income quantity. If my income increases from M1 to M2, if my income increases, what I am doing? I am purchasing less. That particular commodity I am purchasing less. So what I am getting is again a relation, not demand curve. Okay. I am giving you an example. As I was telling you that generally what I do, I avail third AC. First AC and flight is luxury for me. Now what I am, suppose I am a sales executive. Now I got a promotion, I got promoted to sales manager from sales executive. Now I always prefer first AC. I always prefer to fly. I don't prefer third AC anymore. Even I don't prefer train. I don't prefer to go by train. I want to fly. That will save my time. A more comfortable journey. So what was initially when I was a sales executive? Flight was a luxury for me. The same commodity, flight, is becoming normal for me because now I'm a sales manager. I'm earning high. So going by flight is affordable to me, and whatever I was used to, the third AC, that became my inferior commodity, and I am not purchasing ticket of third AC. So what has happened? My income went up and quantity came down. Okay. So these things happens. Now next one is, we will consider here what? The relation between quantity demanded and price of the complementary good. In my previous lecture I told you that what do we understand by complementary good. Complementary goods are what? Complementary goods are those which we have to use jointly, like pen and ink, pen and refill, like a car and fuel. Without fuel we cannot drive a car. Okay, and if we don't have a car, we don't require fuel at all. Okay, like mobile and recharge. So wherever we are using both the commodities jointly, those are complementary that I consider. Now suppose I am considering here two complementary commodities. Suppose I am considering here one is tea, okay, tea, and another one is sugar. Okay. So whenever I am considering tea and sugar, I have two things, two information regarding tea. One is price of tea, another one is quantity. This is tea. Price of tea. Another one is quantity of tea, like price of sugar and quantity of sugar. Now we are considering that we always use sugar. Actually assumption is there that we are not diabetic. And another one is that we use sugar for tea only, not for any other purpose. That is what we are considering. So tea and sugar are complementary to each other. So what happens if price of tea increases? Following law of demand, quantity of tea should come down. If price of tea increases, we will consume less tea. And we don't use, suppose nothing has happened with price of sugar. Price of sugar remains same. Okay, price of sugar remains same. So then also, as we use sugar with tea only, then we are consuming, as we are consuming less tea, we will consume less sugar. So quantity of sugar will also come down. So in a nutshell, what we can say, if price of tea goes up, quantity of sugar comes down. So graphically we can say like this, that suppose this is my price of tea and this one is quantity of sugar. If this is the initial combination P1 and Q1, if price of tea goes up, quantity of sugar will come down, Q2 and P2. So we are getting a negative relation. We are getting a negative relation, inverse relation. Is this a demand curve? No. Because why it is not a demand curve? Because we are actually measuring different commodities into excess. Price of tea and quantity of sugar. But in demand, what happens? We measure the price of quantity of the same price and quantity of the same commodity. Here we are using price and quantity of the different commodity. So this is again not a demand curve. This shows a relationship. Okay, what relationship it is showing? It is showing the relationship between quantity demanded and price of complementary commodities. Now we are coming to the next part, that is quantity demanded, how much I am demanding, and price of substitute goods. Quantity demanded and price of substitute goods. Substitute, that I told in my last lecture, that substitute means which we can replace. Okay, I want to have coffee is not available, I can have tea. So now suppose I have two bundle, one is price of tea and quantity of tea, another one is price of coffee and quantity of coffee. Okay. Now suppose price of coffee has went up. So following law of demand, what people will do? People will consume less coffee. So people, they will replace coffee by tea. Nothing has happened with price of tea, but they will now consume more tea because they are replacing. Coffee is no more affordable to them, it becomes costlier, so tea is relatively cheaper. So what they are doing, they are substituting tea, they are replacing coffee with tea. Okay, so as a result, what is happening? See, if price of coffee is going up, quantity of tea is also going up. So if I draw a picture that this is price of coffee and this one is quantity of tea, and this is the initial bundle of coffee and tea, then if price of coffee goes up from P1 to P2, what will happen? The quantity of coffee will also go up, though nothing has happened with price of tea. Okay, so if price of coffee goes up from P1 to P2, quantity of tea will also go up from Q1 to Q2, though nothing has happened with price of tea, but as people are replacing coffee with tea, so more people are now purchasing tea. Now again, whatever I have drawn, suppose if I am naming this to point as A and B, so whatever line I have drawn, this is again a relation, not a demand curve, because this is actually considering price and quantity of two different commodities, coffee and tea. Okay. The last thing is actually quantity, demand and taste and preferences. Taste and preferences, we can measure the choices of consumer, that is we call as utility. So that is a separate theory. There are cardinal and ordinal approach how we measure whether we should measure the satisfaction level. Okay, how I will actually measure the taste and preferences, how taste and preferences is inducing quantity demanded, how I can measure it. Okay, through a utility approach we can consider. There are different approaches for that we can discuss in a separate chapter, separate lecture. Okay, so for the time being, so we have discussed all the demand function, the demand function whatever we have considered, that is price of commodity, income of the consumer, complementary goods, price of complementary good, price of substitute goods. All this we have considered, that how these are influencing quantity demand.